Representative Porter of the 94th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to stand and offer my staunch support on this bill. As a domestic violence survivor, I can't tell you how pleased I am that this bill has actually made it to the floor and is going to get a vote, and I am hopeful, very hopeful, that it will be done with bipartisan support from what I've heard thus far. It's time. It's overdue. No victim should have to worry about being arrested if they're being abused. And I think one of the things that I heard that really concerns me is that it was stated if you know, how do you determine if you're being abused and you get hit and you hit somebody back and you're more aggressive, then both people should be arrested. Nobody should be arrested for being a victim. Nobody should be arrested for self-defense. I think it should be legal, and I do believe it is legal, for people to defend themselves when they are under attack. And to have to deal with defending yourself when it comes to physical abuse, especially with children in the home, nobody knows what that is. We can tell the stories, and I'm glad that the stories are being told, but to go through it as a survivor, I can tell you, even when you tell the story, there's a lot that you don't tell. There's a lot that doesn't get said. And there's real good reason for that. So I believe that it's important and that it's time, it's overdue, and that we need to also think about the trauma. It's been talked about. I think everyone, with the exception of a few, have mentioned not just the trauma to the victim, but the trauma to the children and what they go through. Because I had children. My daughter was an infant and my son was 7 years old. And my son is 31 and still has effects over what happened. My daughter was too young to remember. So this is something that not only I carry as a survivor, but my son also carries. And it has had an impact on him. So I think that these are the things that we need to take in consideration when we're looking at passing this kind of legislation and who we are actually helping. And it's not just the victim and the children. We actually help the community. We help the officers, the people that have to come and answer these calls. My chiefs in both the town of Hampden and the city of New Haven are in staunch support of this. They are crying out for this kind of help because the numbers in those cities and towns are ridiculously high. They're more than double. And this is work that we don't have to put on the police department, that we can trust our officers that have been trained and have been answering these calls anyway, to give them the discretion to make a sound decision. They're on the front lines. They're there. They see what's going on. And I trust them to make a good assessment on who needs to be arrested. Because you do send a message that if you call the cops and you've defended yourself, you're going to be arrested. And that was one of the reasons why, just one of the reasons why I never called the cops. Nobody wants to go to jail and leave their kids. And then you have to worry about who's going to get the kids. Is DCF going to get the kids, or is there a grandparent that can get the kids? What happens to the children? And how do the children process this? Because they're children, and they don't have the capacity to process it. So I think that, you know, a lot has been said. I'm glad to hear that most of it was in support of this. I'm very pleased to hear that. I think this is a common sense bill, that it is common sense legislation, and that I hope that it gains tremendous bipartisan support when it hits the board here today. And I would also like to thank all the advocates that have worked relentlessly to get us here, because we don't get to do this alone. I've put in work on this bill along with a lot of other legislators in this room and also in the Senate. So I want to take a moment to give them thanks and to let them know that they are appreciated and that nothing gets done in this building without teamwork. And specifically, I will shout out Karen Jarmark and her team and the many others that have worked relentlessly to make sure that this happens today. And I would like to thank the Judiciary Committee for getting this out. And I would like to give a special thanks to the chair and the vice chair and our ranking members. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I will be seated.
Thank you, Madam.